What I am about to tell you, it is sending shockwave through Indian community in the United States because what started as routine immigration checks, it has turned into fear, confusion and custodial detention as well. And Telugu-speaking Indians, they found themselves in the middle of it. You're watching TimesXP. It's me, Driti Atri. IC raid operation across multiple states are active. Yes, across the United States, including Minnesota, Texas, California, US Immigration and Custom Enforcement and immigration officials, they carried out a week-long enforcement operations targeting people whose visas or immigration status were under scrutiny. Well, it was more than a door-to-door check. It involved stops at workplaces and public areas where agents asked immigrants about their legal papers and their status. Officials described the crackdown as one of the biggest recent enforcement pushes in Minnesota. Basically, Telugu-speaking Indians, they were caught up in raid. Yes, among those who are affected were Indian nationals from the Telugu community, students, tech workers, residents who were briefly taken into custody and questioned by the ICE agent. In fact, in one incident, 2 Indian students on F1 visas were approached by federal agents at a store in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. They were detained, questioned for hours about their visa status, and only released later the same day after officials verified all the documents. Elsewhere in Minnesota, other members of Indian and Telugu community, they were also temporarily held and questioned before being let go. In fact, another example, an H-1B worker was detained at his office. Yes, one H-1B visa holder employed at a tech company in Minnesota shared a frightening story. Agents arrived shortly after he started working, handcuffed him, and took him to detention center. He said that he was questioned about his employment, education, entry into the US for nearly 4 hours before finally being released after almost 7 hours in custody. Now, for many people who are living and working illegally in the US, this kind of experience, it is traumatic, it is frightening, specifically when it happens without any warning. But why these checks are happening? That is the bigger question here. Federal officials say that this operation was part of a larger effort to verify immigration status in communities with high immigrant population. ICE and US Citizenship and Immigration Services, they said that when somebody's paperwork checks out, they are usually released without further action. And yes, at the very same time, local law enforcement agencies like in Denton County, Texas, they are partnering with ICE under a new program that allows sheriffs and deputies to help with immigration enforcement duties. Let's talk about the solution now. Experts explain that these detentions are part of a coordinated effort to make sure that people in the US are working and living legally. They also stress that if your documentation is valid and up to date, you are likely to be released after the verification. In fact, keeping all the identity and visa paper in order, it is very important to avoid these painful encounters here. But yes, it has a global impact. Such raids create fear and uncertainty specifically in immigrant communities that are already cornered about immigration policy shift and enforcement trend across the US. For the Telugu diaspora, students, workers and families who are living far from their home, these experiences can be jarring, raising a lot of questions about stability and their future in the United States. Well, in the end, this was not just a routine visit from the authorities. It was a major enforcement operation that briefly swept up members of Indian communities, including Telugu speakers across multiple states.